appreciating the Jets being over 500. That is, very rare air for me to be breathing. So I'm going to keep my perspective there and relish that while it lasts.
I certainly hope that you've been paying attention to our bets the last few weeks because we've been on the Jets bandwagon, and I know that only now is it starting to pay off in terms of wins. But when it comes to covers, the Jets have been a nice play for a few weeks now. Blees, so nice to have you in the space. How are you doing this evening? Blees, how are you doing?
Hey, what's up, everybody? What's going on? Fumble, what's up, Dennis? How'd we do this week? I know you said on the one parlay with Seattle, you got them at plus 7.5, so that parlay pyramid hit. That's pretty awesome.
So we did have our first parlay pyramid hit. Unfortunately, the one that we published for everybody had it at plus 6, but we bought it earlier in the week when it was a better line. So we did get plus 7.5, which helped us out with the cover. It's part of the reason we're going to be doing the Twitter space tonight and this spatial that I hope everyone's enjoying once it's posted on YouTube. This is an opportunity for people to take advantage of early bets, early lines within the week. So much public money comes down between Tuesday and Sunday morning that opportunities go away and evaporate. By listening and joining the conversation tonight with Fumble Sports and friends here on Twitter Spaces and on Spatial, we'll talk about some of the early lines that come out, how you can take advantage of them, what are some of the prop bets or other plays that you can take advantage of throughout the week. And that way you're making some of your extra money, but you're doing it on the front half of the week rather than the back half, where you're fighting not just Vegas, but public money. We are going to get into the list of games in just a second, but to cover Blees's point, very successful week of gambling for some of us. Some parlays played out. That said, the biggest disappointment of the week for me, at least, was the Green Bay Packers. I had them in a number of parlays getting the win. The fact that they didn't certainly caused some chaos to the start of my NFL Sunday, as I had to pack together a whole new collection of parlays. Dennis, we already talked about your Jets, so we know what the high point was. What was your low point of Week 5?
Oh, man, Jared Goff. I did not expect to be putting up a goose egg on my fantasy side. I'm in 3 leagues, and that was the one that I had some momentum, but he ran into some Belichickian defensive schemes that bamboozled him. So that was definitely the hardest game for me to watch in terms of, selfishly because of fantasy.
I wish you had reached out to me sooner. One of the bets I took as one of my favorite player props of the week was Jared Goff over half an interception. I just believed Bill Belichick was going to get in his head, and ultimately it happened. I think it was in the first quarter. So I'm sorry you missed on Jared Goff from a fantasy standpoint. That said, some of us cashed on that same action. Blees, what was your highlight and low light for NFL Week 5?
So I dominated in my one league where I started Eckler, Fournette, and Hall.
Oh, wow. Hall with a breakout game. Yeah.
Yeah, and remember I was asking you before the game about benching him for Curtis Samuel. I was pretty torn on that, so I'm happy I went with Hall and got the easy dub.
If you don't mind, remind me what our advice was.
So I had asked to start Hall or Samuel, and you did say Hall that he had a better chance to score. So I'm glad I went with Hall on that one because
just want to collect the receipts where they're available. I want to make sure that Fumble Sports gets the credit it deserves when it doesn't screw up and it puts people on the right track. So Blees, thrilled to hear that Breece Hall was a winning play. Monster game. Looking forward to more outstanding rookie performances from him. Excited to get into this week of games. Let's start with the Thursday night game. I know many people are probably considering this a dud, but when it comes to gambling and when it comes to player props, there are no duds. Every game is an opportunity to make money. So let's jump right into it. The Thursday night football game between the Washington Commanders and the Chicago Bears on Amazon Prime, where I saw it, which is Bovada. I'm more than happy to look at other books, but for the moment, Bovada is the place I go to get my lines and to place my bets. Washington at Chicago. Chicago is a 1-point favorite. The over-under set at 39.5 points. Just to go into some gambling trends before I open it up to others, The Commanders are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games. Forgive me. The Commanders are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 meetings against the Chicago Bears. The road team is 8-2 against the spread in the last 10 meetings between Washington and Chicago. The Bears are 5-12-1 against the spread in their last 18 Thursday night games. Again, I'll give that to you again. The Bears are 5-12-1 against the spread in their last 18 Thursday night games. The over is 9-2 in the Commanders' last 11 Thursday games, and the over is 4-0 in the last 4 meetings. So let's get right into it. Dennis, what are your early thoughts about this Thursday night matchup? Let's see if Dennis is able to speak again. Dennis, are you able to jump on the speak? Dennis, what are your thoughts on the game?
Well, I'm looking at the past 3 games for Fields in terms of prop bets here. It looks like he's had 17, 22, 21 attempts in the last 3 games. And I believe currently the over-under on total passing yards is 165.5. I think that he is trending upwards. I think that the Bears are feeling the heat from their fan base. I think we're going to see an uptick in the offensive attack by the Bears. I would go with the over on that prop if I could pick one bet.
Blease, anything stand out to you about this game?
Nothing whatsoever. I mean, not at all. So yeah, I'm amazed that the Bears are actually favored. What's that say about the Commanders? I mean, come on.
I think that says 2 things. One, I do think it suggests that the Carson Wentz experiment in Washington has definitely soured for a lot of folks. That said, I actually think the reason the Bears are favored in this game, 2 reasons. One, they've shown a little bit of life, especially in their run game. They were able to cover against the Minnesota Vikings last weekend, which disappointed many who thought the Vikings would get a blowout. But additionally, the home team on a Thursday night game should be favored. Just the challenges of travel, everything else in recovery. I know we saw a road team win last week when the Colts played the Broncos, but we need to throw out that game and just disregard it altogether. This week, I like the Bears. I'm also going against the trends right now. I know I gave a couple trends that suggest the over, but I'm just going to go with the under. Not only have unders been a popular play and a popular result in primetime games this season, I kind of go to where Dennis was talking. The passing game for the Bears is just so bad that my question is, how is it possible to score enough points to hit the over? It would require Carson Wentz hitting a few deep passes, which is definitely possible, or it would require Khalil Herbert or David Montgomery breaking some big rushing gains. I think that's also possible. However, what I just described, those are outliers, or those are things that could happen, but there's less of a probability of that. The greater probability, this is a slow, low-scoring game where two teams with poor offenses just kind of slug it out between the 20s for a majority of this game. It's part of the reason I like the under. If I had to bet a team on this, I do think I would take the Bears. I do think they're just a slightly better team at home, again, on the short week. Maybe I would feel differently if this game were in Washington, but the fact that it's in Soldier Field, I think Justin Fields, I'm not expecting much from him. If he was more of a game manager, I actually think it would suit him better. The problem is he has a skill set that suggests he could be like a Kyler Murray, but he's just not. He doesn't have the arm talent, and he doesn't have the team around him. He needs to play more like Bailey Zappi. I know that sounds crazy, but look at a quarterback who entered the game, or entered a situation, and all they needed to do was control time of possession, limit turnovers, keep the ball, own the clock. That's what the Bears need to do in this game. It's one of the reasons I do like the Bears. I think that's how they'll approach it. So I have Bears. I have the under. Dennis had the prop play earlier. Dennis, do you have any plays on the game itself?
Well, I actually had one bet I wanted to bounce off you that is somewhat relevant, and that's the next NFL coach to be fired. Ron Rivera's currently got the 3rd best odds, plus 450. I don't know if this could be one of those games where it's a let's win for Ron to save his job type thing. He does have Nathaniel Hackett and Cliff Kingsbury ahead of him. But curious to hear if you have any interest in that prop and if you think that Rivera might be gone by the end of the season.
Well, we did get Matt Rule correct. We did accurately predict that he was going to be the first head coach fired, and we can officially say, ding, 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 got that one correct, as Matt Rule was fired earlier today. However, I also, fired yesterday. That's how long he's already been out of a job. However, that said, Cliff Kingsbury is a more popular target for me. I thought he would be the second head coach to be on the hot seat and potentially be fired. I still think there's a chance of that. As for Ron Rivera, I really don't like it, actually. He's a well-respected man within the NFL, both of his time as a player and as a head coach. I think it would look really poorly for the Washington Commanders. Dan Snyder already has a bucket of problems to deal with involving the NFL. So I just don't believe he's going to fire Ron Rivera mid-season. I do think when Black Monday comes, the day after the regular season ends, when all the head coaches that are on the hot seat are fired, I would expect to hear Ron Rivera's name on that day. But mid-season, I think he has too much respect around the league, and I think Washington doesn't have the room to make such a bold decision and bold action mid-season. So I like Ron Rivera to keep his job. As to your question about Nathaniel Hackett, I also think he's not a great candidate, actually. I think that's some laziness by the odds setters. Only in that, is there any way a rookie head coach is going to be fired mid-season who's not named Urban Meyer? I just don't believe it. So I wouldn't necessarily go with those two people, Dennis. If there was one, it'd be Cliff Kingsbury. But I wouldn't go Hackett, and I wouldn't go Ron Rivera as the next head coach is fired. Moving to some of the games again going on for Sunday, we're going to move over to the Atlanta Falcons hosting the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are 3-2, coming off an impressive win against the Carolina Panthers. The Atlanta Falcons 2-3, and amazingly are 5-0 against the spread as they covered once again against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road. San Francisco is a 6-point favorite against the Falcons, and the over-under set at 42 points. Giving some gambling trends, the 49ers are 8-1 against the spread in their last 9 games against the NFC. The Falcons, as I mentioned a moment ago, 5-0 against the spread, the only undefeated team against the spread remaining this season. The under is 7-1 in the 49ers' last 8 games overall. The under is 5-2 in the Falcons' last 7 home games. And the under is 5-1 in the 49ers' last 6 road games. If you're having a tough time to figuring out which way I'm going to go, pretty easy. It's the under on this play. I really like it. The 49ers defense has been fantastic. Meanwhile, the Falcons just have too many injuries on the offensive side of the ball. Cordell Patterson was placed on IR last week. Kyle Pitts missed last week with an injury. Whether he comes back or not, I just don't think there are a lot of points that are going to be scored in this game. That said, I would buy the 1.5 classic butt fumble sports style, get it up to 43.5, and buy the under there. Dennis, what are your plays for this game?
We're in lockstep, and I can tell you this has nothing to do with statistics. It's entirely to do with just the eyeball test. I was really impressed with I didn't watch the entire Tampa-Atlanta game, but I watched the highlights, and I was watching it on Red Zone. They really put up a fight that I didn't think would exist, especially with all the injuries they've had. I certainly agree they are the better pick here against the 6-point spread. But I'm definitely comfortable with the under here. I don't know how well San Fran's going to travel, and I think that Atlanta, while feisty, they're still not exactly an offensive juggernaut.
Please, any thoughts on this game?
No, but I did have the image in this space. If you want to walk over, I just swapped out one of the images. You just want to give you that.
Oh, I'll walk over right now.
No, I really don't. I don't have a play in this one.
You think there's anything to be said with the bad call against them, that maybe they get some good juju as a result?
I don't think the NFL works that way. I think the NFL works that way inside of a game. I don't think the NFL works that way. Last night. I think the NFL works that way. At one point in that game, the Chiefs were getting every call in their favor. At one point in that game, the Chiefs were getting every call in their favor. I felt like the third quarter, the Chiefs got every call against the Chiefs, whether it was there or it wasn't. That's how the NFL usually operates. Whether it was there or it wasn't. That's how the NFL usually operates. But if there was a bad call last week, usually that doesn't carry over. I don't. But if there was a bad call last week, usually that doesn't carry over. I don't think it plays too much of a factor. The NFL handing out favors. So no, I don't think it plays too much of a factor. You're killing me here, Bleece. You threw up sound and spatial. That said, you're killing me here, Bleece. You threw up sound and spatial. That said, continue to watch, not in terms of fantasy, but in terms of a player who continues to get things done when it comes to covering the spread. A player who continues to get things done when it comes to covering the spread. Is a bit tricky to me. Do I have that much faith right Jimmy now Garoppolo is a bit tricky to me. Do I have that much faith in Jimmy Garoppolo on offense? We're not talking enough about their injuries right now. How healthy are the 49ers on offense? We're not talking enough about their injuries right now. I actually think I would buy the 1.5. If I'm going to make a play on the spread, I actually think I would buy the 1.5. I like that play. This is one of the reasons we talk about better than a touchdown at home. I like that play. This is one of the reasons we talk about these things. It may not. It may swell, and then you can double down on it and get even more points in favor of San Francisco. It may not. It may swell, or rather, you can double down on it and get even more points in favor of San Francisco. Or rather, in favor of Atlanta. I think that's a good line. But for now, 6 points in favor of San Francisco. I think that's a best bet coming out of this game, as I mentioned, is the 43.5 points. But the best bet coming out of this game, as I mentioned, is the 43.5 point New England Patriots playing the Cleveland Browns. Now moving on, the New England Patriots. New England Patriots playing the Cleveland Browns. Are the New England Patriots 2-3 as they try to figure out their quarterback situation. Also, with Jacoby Brissett for only a few more weeks. Figure out their quarterback situation. We're halfway through with Jacoby Brissett for only a few more weeks. It's amazing. And according to reports, he's done everything for Deshaun Watson. He's needed to do, or is being asked of him to get back on the field. He's needed to do, or is being asked of him 11 to get back on the field. The Browns are a 2.5-point favorite. And the over/under set at 42 points. The Browns are giving out some gambling trends. The over/under set at 42 points, 4-1 giving out some gambling trends in their last 6 the Patriots are the Browns are 2-1 against the spread in their last 8 road games. The Browns are 2-7 against the spread in their last 8 home games. 10 meetings between the Pats and Browns. 7-3, and the over is 5-2 in the last 7 meetings. And the over is 5-2. If I had to lean one way in this game, I actually like Cleveland on the money line. If I had to lean one way in this game, I think they are the better team. Believe it or not, I think they have the better roster. I like Cleveland at home. The better running. I think they are the better team. And for that reason and more, I think they have the better roster. The Browns certainly the better running play at home. And for that reason and more, I think the Browns I like Ramondre Stevenson to have a really strong game for the Patriots. Sounds like Damian Harris will not be a go this week with a hamstring injury. Suffered on Sunday's game against the Lions with a hamstring injury that he suffered on Sunday's game against the Lions. Who think of the Patriots, I think Cleveland on the money line as a lot that may shock many to win against the Cleveland Browns, and I just don't think that's the case. So I've got Cleveland to win against the Cleveland Browns. I just don't think that's the case just yet. So I've got Cleveland. I'm going towards Cleveland on the money line. Dennis, what are your thoughts on just yet in the week? I'm going towards Cleveland on the money line. Dennis, what are your thoughts on this game?
You're leaving out the major story here. Isn't this a Belichick revenge game against the Browns for firing him, 25 years ago? Maybe even longer.
If this is a revenge game, then, I mean, what qualifies? What's the period of time before a revenge game officially goes stale? I think 6 Super Bowl victories is enough time between being fired and playing your old employer. So I certainly don't think of it as a revenge game. In that way, no.
Well, that being said, I do believe that the Patriots appeared to have righted the ship, and comparing the Browns offense to the Lions offense, I know it's probably not the perfect comparison because the Pats are traveling to Cleveland. I think that I'm going to take the Pats against the spread. I think, both teams are evenly matched, but I think that New England's discovered something. I think Belichick is beginning to come around. I think that they're exceeding expectations. And for the Browns, I think there's a lot of frustration. And for Brissett to just be holding the bag until Watson's ready to take over, I think he'll be manipulated because of Belichick's familiarity with his tendencies. So give me the Pats on this.
If there is a revenge game to be had, funny enough, you mentioned him, but you didn't bring up the revenge factor, and that's Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett was traded by the Patriots for Philip Dorsett a few years ago. Jacoby Brissett went on to substitute for Andrew Luck, has since come on and played, filled in for Phillip Rivers with the Colts, and has now gone to the Browns and has filled in for Deshaun Watson. I'm a big Jacoby Brissett fan. I liked him when the Patriots drafted him out of NC State. I actually think he's a very professional quarterback. He has a tendency to make certain mistakes in clutch moments, but for a majority of the game, he's very reliable. He has a strong arm. He can run the ball. He's a physical guy, so if you needed to get third or fourth in short yardage, he's an option. But I really like Jacoby Brissett as a player and as a person. I think he may be the best quarterback featured in this game. That says a lot about the decisions the Patriots have made over the last few years. But if there is one player or one person who could be seeking revenge, it's Jacoby Brissett, who got traded by the Patriots, was pretty much told, we're not going to hold a spot for you to be our backup. Felice, do you have any takes on this game?
Under. I think it's an under. Slow game. They're going to just, I think both teams will probably try to establish that run game and get that clock down. So I really like the under in this. As a side, I don't know. I don't know how Cleveland's a 2.5 point favorite. I mean, I guess that's just for being at home, but I don't know if that is much of an advantage here. And then, I could see some missed kicks or not even going for a field goal there. So I do like the under there.
I agree with you.
Who's the quarterback? Who are they going with?
I think that's yet to be known. If I'm the Patriots, I throw Bailey Zappi out for one more week. And then you can make the swap. But until you lose, why substitute an injured player into the lineup and take out a healthy player? Let the backup get a few more days of reps. Let him have the opportunity to start on Sunday. If he loses, the expectation was they were going to lose anyways. So there's no disappointment. Everyone will rally behind the returning starter, and there's peace and prosperity throughout the land. But for now, I wouldn't start Mac Jones. I think a high ankle sprain is something to be concerned about, especially since he's not a mobile quarterback to begin with. So if he's just a statue in the pocket, it gives me reason for concern, especially with Myles Garrett on the hunt. So I'd start Bailey Zappi. But again, that speaks to who's got the quarterback advantage. Believe it or not, it's the Cleveland Browns. The 2.5 points, I agree with you, Blease. I don't like that spread. I'm not touching it, but Cleveland on the money line was the play I went with. I'm also with you, Blease. I really like the under. And player props for running backs. I think the over total rushing yards for Ramondre Stevenson's a strong play. And I would consider that for Chubb as well, but I'll wait to see where that line is set as we get closer to Sunday. Moving through Go ahead, please.
I just wanted to preface and just say the only thing that could screw up that is like a defensive touchdown or a special teams play, which could very well happen.
Could very well happen given these two teams and the situation they're playing in. To your point, it's a game in which expect the unexpected or otherwise expect the slowest, most boring, run-focused game. It's going to go one of the two ways. Continuing to work our way through the 1 p.m. schedule for NFL Week 6 Sunday, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 3-2 and travel to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. Tampa Bay is an 8-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 43.5 points. Giving out some gambling trends, the Bucs are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 road games. The Steelers are 3-1-1 against the spread in their last 5 home games. The road team is 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 meetings between the two teams. And the under is 4-1 in the Bucs' last 5 road games. And the under is 5-1 in the Steelers' last 6 home games. So based off of those trends, there is one play I really like in this game. It is the under. I'm buying 1.5, taking the under 45 points. I really like that play. I think this is a game in which two defenses come out and eliminate big passing plays. I don't think Mike Evans is going to have the kind of game he did against the Falcons. I don't think Kenny Pickett's going to have a big game against the Bucks. I think this is a lower scoring game. I know it's got a lot of brand names in it between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Tampa Bay Buccaneers led by Tom Brady. But in reality, these are two poor offenses. The strength of these two teams is their defense. I like the under 45 points. And to a point Blease brought up in our last game, just for a fun prop bet, I'm going to put down money on an anytime defensive touchdown. So a defensive score doesn't need to be a lot of money. I wouldn't put a whole unit on it, a half a unit, if you go by that kind of gambling metric. So I don't have a ton of, I'm not making it as a lock, but I certainly like it as something just to throw a few shekels on it, see if it hits, and then you can cash it in and laugh about it as you watch Minkah Fitzpatrick bring back a Tom Brady pick six. Now, that said, Dennis, what are your thoughts on Buccaneers at Steelers?
I don't know why this comes to mind, but I'm thinking of the old "they are who we thought they were" mantra. Is it Denny Green? Was that his famous quote?
That was.
I think that Tampa is, in spite of all the injuries, in spite of all the inconsistencies of who's starting and healthy enough to play, I think they are showing that they have the mettle. I think that this is probably the final push of Tom Brady's career. I mean, who knows? He could go for another 5 years as far as we know. But meanwhile, I know that the Steelers have the trend of never being below 500 while Tomlin's been their coach.
Mike Tomlin has never had a sub 500 season as head coach of the Steelers.
Right, and so I have to believe that they are trending towards breaking that particular streak. So as much as I am typically reluctant to go against home dogs with a spread that's over 5 or 6, I mean, we're at 8, I believe, currently. I still like Tampa. I'll go with them for this week.
Blease, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, that's a big spread. I like your play on under. I could definitely see that. I thought Brady would kind of pop off against the Falcons, and I was kind of expecting that a little bit, and it didn't happen. I don't know if it's the personal or what's going on there. The line not gelling and getting to him a lot. But I did like to see Fournette get 10 catches. I thought that was pretty awesome, and then he's developing White. I just really thought that they would score a lot more points against the Falcons, and the fact that it was 21-15 is just woof. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about them this year. So yeah, I like your play on the under.
So a couple stats to throw at people, because I know it's easy to look at Tom Brady's season right now and go, okay, the cliff has finally come and Tom Brady is showing signs of age. Just in case anyone wasn't paying attention, right now his completion percentage is 68%. He's thrown 7 touchdowns to just 1 interception, and he's currently 3rd in the league in passing yards, behind only Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. So this just in, Tom Brady still good at quarterback in the NFL. Unbelievable what he's accomplishing, even at the age of 45. Whatever he's going through on a personal side, we're not going to talk about that. But his longevity, his consistency, and this is a year in which he's not playing with Randy Moss or Wes Welker. He's not playing with future Hall of Famers or All-Stars. He is back to a time with playing with scrubs and trying to convert them into stars. I know last week he got Godwin and Evans back, but what Tom Brady's doing right now is so impressive. I don't think he's actually getting enough credit. I hate saying that because I know Tom Brady gets love for almost everything he does, but the stats he's putting up this year, pretty impressive. I know they had an ugly loss to the Chiefs yesterday, may not have been as impressive, to Blease's point, as a lot of people had, when it came to expectations for how the Bucs would bounce back. But don't put it on Tom Brady. The stats are there. The performance is there. The team's just not as good, and I think that more speaks to who the Bucs are this year than anybody else. Like I said for this game, I really like the under. Talking about fantasy for just a minute, one player I don't like is Najee Harris. Najee Harris in this game, I don't like him for fantasy. I don't like him in this game. I like him under his totals for prop bets. When it comes to the ability to run, the Steelers are going to have a tough time The Buccaneers are one of the best teams against the run in the NFL. They're a team that, based off of who they have up front in Vita Vea, I expect them to be able to really collapse the middle of the offensive line for the Steelers, which is where Najee Harris can be so effective. I think Harris, he may get his receptions and he may get receiving yards, but when it comes to a rushing yard day, I think Najee Harris is going to disappoint. So one fantasy nugget, you might want to sit him this coming Sunday. Moving on through our NFL Sunday Week 1, or rather NFL Sunday Week 6 at 1 p.m., the Cincinnati Bengals take their 2-3 record to New Orleans to play the 2-3 New Orleans Saints. The Bengals are a 1-point favorite. The over-under set at 44.5. Some gambling trends for you. The Bengals are 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 road games. The Saints are 3-8 against the spread in their last 11 games following an against the spread win. The Bengals are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games, and the under is 10-1 in the Bengals' last 11 games overall. I don't want to be a broken record, but count me in for the under on this game once again. I'm going to buy the 1.5, get it to 46 points, and then buy the under. I also like the Bengals to cover. Bengals -1. I think that's an easy line for them to cover. One of the things I like about this game isn't just it's a get-right game for the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a couple of LSU Tigers going back to the Bayou. So Jamar Chase, I like an anytime touchdown. And Joe Burrow, I think he's going to have a big game. Expect this to be a bit of a homecoming for the LSU Tiger alumni who are now in the NFL. I think this is a big game that you're going to see from the Bengals passing game. So I like Jamar Chase anytime touchdown, maybe even 2 if I'm getting a little crazy. And I like Joe Burrow to hit his over passing touchdown mark. I believe it'll be set at 1.5. So I'd take it at 2. Dennis, what are your thoughts on this game?
I love the anytime touchdown with Jamar, especially if T. Higgins is not playing or doesn't come back at 100%. I think the Bengals have a little making up to do after last week's dud, and I cannot figure out the Saints. I don't know what kind of team that they are. Every time you think they're down, they come back. Then you think they're great, and all of a sudden you're seeing just sloppy play, and Alvin Kamara completely shut down. So I think that the Bengals are going to bounce back after last week's loss, but I do agree that it should be particularly entertaining seeing the guys returning to New Orleans who want to put on a show for the people who rooted for them while in college.
I do want to give a special shout out to anyone who sat Taysom Hill last week and put him on your bench. I feel so sorry for you. He has his one monster mega game of the season, and you couldn't take advantage. I know someone in one of my leagues who was thinking of playing him at tight end and instead sat him. Yes, Taysom Hill can be played as a tight end in some of these fantasy leagues. Can you imagine the kind of day you would have had if Taysom Hill was your 30-plus point tight end in fantasy? Not everyone can be so lucky. But to your point, Dennis, I don't think the Saints have an identity yet. Obviously, Kamara being injured and out early in the year impacted that. Not having Jameis Winston has impacted that. Andy Dalton doing the best he can. But the Saints, I thought they were going to be better defensively. They're really not. I thought they'd be better offensively. They're really not. The only thing that has surpassed my expectations when it's come to New Orleans is Chris Olave. He's really been spectacular. I loved what, in his limited action last week, unbelievable catch, and then obviously suffering the concussion. But I think he's one of the few bright spots. But other than that, New Orleans could be looking at a very disappointing year. They could be looking at a top 10, top 12 pick in next year's draft. So if I'm the Saints, I don't mind losing this game to the Bengals. I'd rather have the pick. I think they have a lot of pieces they need, including a franchise quarterback. It's one of the reasons I like this game. The Bengals need the win. The Saints, they got a win last week. They're feeling better about themselves. I think this is a letdown game for New Orleans. Blease, any additional thoughts before we move on to the next game?
Wait, who's got the franchise quarterback?
I'm saying the Saints don't have a franchise quarterback,
Okay.
and that's why being able to have a high draft pick in the 2023 NFL draft may do them very well because right now they don't have a quarterback on their roster that they can build around.
Yeah, I think it's just like that environment's just so tough to go to New Orleans and play them there. And Bengals, like I have like in the same boat as the Buccaneers. It's really tough to like pick where they're gonna be at this season. It's been tough to watch. Like that offensive line is just back to being a Bengals offensive line. They're missing just huge blocks, and yeah, they're asking a lot for Burrow. And that Saints defense is still for real. So, I have a hard time picking the Bengals just because I don't know exactly where they're at. But like you're saying, it could be a get right game for them, and hopefully so. But man, you are hoping for some terrible football this weekend, I gotta say, with all these under picks.
Yeah, unfortunately, Blease, I went through the game trends last night and I was looking at where the lines are set. And I was disappointed in myself because I went, man, you have so many unders right now. You're hoping that an asteroid hits Earth and just knocks out all these NFL Sunday games before we have a second half. And I'm disappointed as a fan. I'm certainly not someone who goes chasing unders. I like action, I like offense. But right now, I'm just seeing, to Tom Brady's point, a lot of sloppy, bad football being played, a lot of bad offensive line play, a lot of drops by wide receivers. I'm just not impressed by what I'm seeing, even in the offensive schemes by play callers, offensive coordinators. I'm just not nearly as impressed. And one of the things I'm noticing is analytics is having a negative effect on the over-under plays. Too many times we're using analytics to take points off the board, to talk ourselves out of a 3-point field goal, which ultimately would help get points on the board and help push the over. There are just too many moments where analytics is kicking in and points are being lost. So I'd
An
rather play on
extra
the
point.
underside. Missed extra points, going for 2-point conversions. There's just more opportunities today for NFL teams to give away points than any time I've ever seen in my 30 years of watching the NFL. I think analytics are fine, but there comes a moment where you just want to put points on the board. The name of the game is scoring points, having more points than your opponent. And right now, I think analytics is driving too many head coaches to pass on points that they can get to chase 4 points that they're not going to. So for a number of reasons, I like the under. I'm watching also how these matchups are being set. And right now, I'm just disappointed by quarterback play, a lot of things. So forgive the pessimism on the unders, but yeah, that is where I'm kind of leaning on things right now. Moving to our next game in the 1 p.m. slate, the New York Football Jets, 3-2. Who would have thunk it, Dennis? You officially have a above 500 football team entering week 6. Go crazy, folks. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers are also 3-2, coming off an embarrassing loss across the pond in London to the New York Football Giants. So back-to-back New York football teams for the Packers. Let's see if they can get right this week. The Packers are a 7.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 44 points. I'll do some gambling trends before I get to my take. The Jets are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 road games. The Packers are 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 games overall. The road team is 3-0-1 against the spread in the last 4 meetings between these two teams. And the over is 4-1-1 in the last 6 meetings between the Jets and Packers. I think the Jets, once again, aren't getting enough respect. I can't believe that I can get them for more than a touchdown right now. Obviously, I'm going to buy the 1.5, and I'm going to take the Jets +9, which just seems like a stupid number. I can't believe, given how they've played in the last couple of weeks, that I could get them at +9. It just speaks to how little respect the Jets get from Vegas and from public bettors. That said, the Packers have some problems. They went to overtime with a Patriots team that really isn't good. They lost to a Giants team that's good, but not great. So maybe the Packers, to your quote earlier, Dennis, maybe they are who we thought they were, or rather, maybe they are what the evidence tells me they are, which is the evidence right now tells me they're really a slightly above 500 team, but they're not a juggernaut. They're not a dominant offense. They're feeling their way through the first half of the season. Meanwhile, the Jets have momentum, and they have momentum not because of Zach Wilson, but because of the running game. We talked about Breece Hall earlier, Michael Carter. They have found something in those two backs that has given Zach Wilson enough balance in the offensive play calling and execution that has me a believer for the first time in a long time in the Jets. And that doesn't even touch on Sauce Gardner on the defensive side of the ball. I hated Darrelle Revis, when he was a Jet because he was so good. I hated seeing him in gangrene. I'm going to feel the same way about Sauce Gardner. This dude is a lockdown corner. He's going to be fun to watch for a decade plus. I'm such a big fan. So for all these reasons, you can hear, I'm not a Jets fan. I don't like the Jets, but I'm a believer in what I'm seeing from them right now, and I have to take recent evidence as reason to believe. So I'm going to take the Jets to cover. I'm not touching the over-under right now. Curious to see where public money comes down, but I can't believe I'm saying it. Give me the Jets to cover 9 points after you buy 1.5. Dennis, I go to our resident New York Jets fan. I know you just went 6 to midnight while we were talking about this game. What are your takes for it?
So this is my head and the heart analysis. My head tells me, as a experienced and damaged emotionally Jet fans from prior years, that they're going to get absolutely slaughtered this weekend. However, my heart tells me that this might actually be the year. This might be the season. And for that reason,
no. I'm going to cut you off, Dennis. This is the year you may cover when you go to Green Bay. I'm not going to say this is the year. We're not doing drugs here at Fumble Sports. We're just believing the Jets could cover against the Packers on the road. So let's just reel it in a little bit, Dennis. Let's reel it in just a little bit.
Let me enjoy it while it lasts. I got to drink the Kool-Aid while we're still over 500.
That's not drinking the Kool-Aid. That's turning your pool into straight Kool-Aid and then drinking it as you swim. I appreciate the enthusiasm. Are there any prop plays or fantasy plays that you like for this game?
Well, if there's any way that you can get Hall on your team, trade for him, get him, especially if it's a dynasty league. That guy looks like a bona fide stud. I've here in terms of because of the bye week, I don't know if maybe you might be able to trade for Dillon on the low side. I think you might see Corey Dillon having excuse me, did I say Corey Dillon or A.J. Dillon? Dillon is going to be making a comeback here. I think that he's been trending downwards. This might be a good time to trade for him.
Just on that note, if you're talking about Corey Davis, the receiver for the Jets, I'm not crazy about him. He really hasn't emerged with Zach Wilson like I thought he would. But to your point, Dennis, I do like A.J. Dillon. I think he could be a good pickup and play. If you're able to make a trade, if somehow someone dropped him in the last couple of weeks, scoop him up. I definitely think this is an opportunity for him. Blease, what's your spin on this game?
Weren't they 9.5 point favorites against the Giants too?
They were. Yep, the Packers were. Yep.
Yeah, it's just like, so Vegas is going to go back to back on that. I don't know. I kind of like the Jets at that. I don't care where the game is played, honestly. Like, who do they think they really are? Like, who do they think the Packers are? Like, they feel like they're holding back the playbook or something. Like, I don't see it. And I see the Jets, like they got a lot of fight in them. And I think now, like, they can actually believe they can win these games, because it felt like last year they were in a lot of close calls where they were losing. Now it's kind of going in their favor, but I felt like they kept it close, at least. So, good teams win, great teams cover. And I think the Jets are a great team.
You heard it here first. Blease says the Jets are a great team. That said, going to a fantasy play I do like this week, a waiver wire pickup if he's available in your league. I like Randall Cobb. You're just seeing how much trust Aaron Rodgers has in Randall Cobb. You're not seeing that from other receivers. He got a ton of targets last game. I can see that continuing to happen. If Randall Cobb is in your league, go pick him up, stash him on your bench. He is a good play for this week against the Jets, but if you already have enough players in your lineup, already have enough wide receivers, Randall Cobb is a good guy to have when you have a wide receiver on a bye week. You need to slot someone into a wide receiver 2 position or into a flex position. You know he's going to get consistent touches or consistent targets with Rodgers focusing on him with the comfort level high. So Randall Cobb is a player I like in fantasy for this week and weeks to come. Continuing to cruise through the 1 p.m. window on NFL Sunday Week 6, The Jacksonville Jaguars are 2-3. The Indianapolis Colts are 2-1. The Colts are a 1.5-point favorite as I saw them, and the over-under is set at 41 points. I'm going to give some gambling trends now before I give my picks. The Jaguars are 3-10 against the spread in their last 13 games overall. The Colts are 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 games against the AFC South. The home team is 7-2-1 against the spread in the last 10 meetings between the Colts and Jags, and the under is 4-0 in the last 4 meetings. I hate to be that guy again, Blease, but if I am leaning on one particular bet right now, it is the under once again. I'm going to buy the 1.5. I'll get it to 42.5, and I'll take the under there. I just have been disappointed the last few weeks in the Colts and the Jaguars offense. I thought the Jags were starting to round into form in their game against the Chargers a few weeks ago, but in their last 2 games against the Eagles and then against the Texans, really underwhelmed, disappointed me. I really want to see a bounce back game from them. I really want to take Jacksonville to win this game. I really want to take them to cover, but right now, I just don't have enough confidence in them. They're starting to show signs of being the same old Jacksonville Jaguars. I need to see something for me to believe it. Maybe I see it in the injury report. Something I'll consider throughout the week is whether Jacksonville is still a good play. Wait to see who's healthy. If Jonathan Taylor is healthy, I think I go Colts to cover. But if Jonathan Taylor can't play, I think that may make the decision for me, and I would take Jacksonville to cover and to win. Dennis, what are your takes on Jags Colts?
I'm sorry. I just have such little enthusiasm for this game. The Colts were just gross to watch last week. If I had to go with any particular bet here, I too agree. The under looks like the way to go. I can't tell what direction either one of these teams are going. Certainly, the Colts do not look like a 500 team. So I'm still scratching my head. I'm going under.
Police, give me a thumbs up if you got anything on this game. Otherwise, I'm going to keep moving on. Let's keep moving on. The Minnesota Vikings at 4-1 traveled down to South Beach to play the Miami Dolphins, who are 3-2. Miami is a 1-point favorite. The over-under set at 46.5. Some gambling trends for you. The Vikings are 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 road games. The Dolphins are 4-1-1 against the spread versus a team with a winning record. The over is 10-3 in the Vikings' last 13 games overall, and the over is 11-4 in the Dolphins' last 15 games following an against the spread loss. Blease, I hope you're ready. I am going over on this one. Finally, we have a game in which I think there are going to be some points scored. I like over 45 points. Right now, the over-under set at 46.5. I buy that down, buy the 1.5, get it at 45. I like Cousins, even if it's Teddy Bridgewater for the Dolphins, which is what I expect at quarterback. I do expect the Dolphins to have a bounce-back game offensively. What they showed against the Jets last week just was an outlier. They were on their third-string quarterback. A lot of reason to throw that game out. But back in Miami, hopefully they get Tyreek Hill back. Obviously, Jalen Waddle. They're going to need big games from their speedsters. But I do like the over. And more importantly, I like Miami to win. I know that, again, Teddy Bridgewater coming off a concussion. I can't believe you're going that way, Butt Fumble. Well, I am, simply because Kirk Cousins on the road is enough of a reason. The Vikings, as I mentioned in that gambling trend, 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 road games. I just don't have enough confidence in the Vikings away from Minnesota. So I like Miami on the money line, Miami to cover the -1, and I like the over 45 points. Dennis, what you got for us?
I like Miami as well. I mean, just generally home dogs. I always seem to go in their direction, but with the way that they've been playing, I will also make a note that Raheem Mostert, I don't know if he's jumped in the time machine, the hot tub time machine or what, but at least in one of the ESPN leagues that I'm involved in, I got my eyes on him, hoping to pick him up off waivers. He's still available in just over 33 1/3 of the ESPN numbers, at least based on what I'm seeing.
Dennis, I don't know if you checked out our rundown as we prepare for the week of content that Fumble Sports will be publishing, but Raheem Mostert is on our list as one of the players to consider this week. Included him as a flex play or a start play in fantasy. Minnesota has the 22nd ranked rush defense in fantasy this year. Mostert had a monster game last week, 18 carries, 113 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown. I do think he's going to be involved in the offense with Tua Tagovailoa still on the sidelines. So I like the run play of Miami. I think that's a smart play by you, Dennis. Blease, thumbs up, thumbs down. Any takes or any picks on this game?
No, this is a really tough one, man, because it's like, what Kirk Cousins are you going to get? I don't know, and yeah, Miami too. It's tough, but yeah, I'd wait. I like that you finally chosen over though. I like that you finally chosen over. You think there's going to be points? Yeah, let's go. I like that play as well.
I figured it was about time to throw you guys off the scent and do something counter to the trend. Moving to the final game of the 1 p.m. window, the Baltimore Ravens, 3-2, travel to New York to play I can't believe I'm saying this, the 4-1 New York Football Giants. The Giants obviously coming off of that incredible win against the Packers in London. Meanwhile, the Ravens finally got a home win as they beat the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. The Ravens 5.5-point favorites. The over-under set at 43.5 points. I'll get to Blease right away. I've got the under in this game. I'm going to buy the 1.5, get it up to 45 points, and take the under. I definitely think is it Marty Morningwig or whatever the defensive coordinator's name for the Giants. He used to be the DC of the Ravens. I think there's a lot of reasons for the Giants to come out and want to put together a really good defensive game plan. I think there's a lot of pride involved if we're talking about revenge games like we did earlier. So, and much like the Jets traveling to Baltimore or traveling to Green Bay rather, and not getting any love from Vegas, I can't believe the Giants right now are 5.5-point underdogs at home. I just think that's way too much disrespect. Vegas is taunting me. I'm going to take the bait. I'll buy the 1.5 and take the Giants to cover +7. That's Giants +7. And I'm taking under 45 points. Dennis, what are your takes on this game?
I agree with you that the Giants seem to be the Rodney Dangerfield. Definitely, I think that they're proving their mettle. I like your bet. I think I'm going to copycat, and I'm actually putting it into my pick and pool right now.
Blease, any takes on this game?
I do not. I do not.
Then we're going to rattle through. We've got just about 10 minutes left on the Twitter space. We're going to rattle through the remaining 5 games of NFL Week 6. So I'm going to keep it just to me and Dennis for this quick blitz through the final 4 p.m. games, Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. Are you ready, Dennis?
Bring it. Let's do it.
Arizona Cardinals are on the road facing the Seattle Seahawks. Arizona is a 2.5-point favorite. The over-under sit at 50 points. Right now, I'm leaning towards Seattle. Seattle as an underdog. The underdog in the last 14 meetings between these two teams is 11, 2, and 1. The Seahawks have just been a darling with the cover. I know that they, depending on where you bought points last week against the Saints, they covered or didn't, but they were close. I like the Seahawks to cover this again, but I'm waiting to see where the public money comes down. So no early week bets on this one. Dennis, what's your take on Cardinals Seahawks?
I've become a Geno believer. I don't know if the Seahawks can borrow the big screen image of Geno at the Celtics games, but hopefully they do here. I'm going with Seattle. I don't like the Cardinals, their inconsistency. I don't think that they'll be able to pull it off. I like the Seahawks.
Carolina Panthers are 1-4 and travel west with a new head coach to face the Los Angeles Rams, who are 2-3. The Rams are a 9-point favorite. The over-under set at 42 points. The Panthers are 1-8 against the spread in their last 9 games against the NFC, and the under is 5-2 in the last 7 meetings. Look out, Blease. He's at it again. I'm going to take the under, buy a 1.5, get it up to 43.5 points, and take the under. I like the Rams on the money line. Hate that spread. 9 points. I feel like this is a game in which the Rams should be able to cover that easily, but a lot of pride at play, not really feeling the spread bet. So that said, I'm taking the under 43.5 points. That's what I'm leaning into, and I'll probably work the Rams money line into a bunch of parlay bets. Dennis, what you got?
Who's starting at quarterback for Carolina this weekend? That's my first question. Are we getting a Darnold sighting?
Or is it PJ Walker or whoever they have off the scrap heap? It really is a TBD situation.
That being said, I do think that the Rams have some improvement here, an opportunity to right the ship. Give me the Rams, and I'd like the over as well.
They'll have Nance and Tony Romo at Arrowhead. Buffalo, 1.5 point favorite. Set at 54 points. The Chiefs 7-3 against the spread against teams with a winning record, and the Bills 2-6 against the spread in their last 8 meetings against the Chiefs. Anytime Patrick Mahomes has been an underdog at home, the Chiefs have either covered or it's been a push. He's 7-0-1 in those situations, and I like it again. I know the Bills are the juggernaut of the AFC, but there are reasons for me to believe that they're a little banged up defensively. I know we haven't seen that in their last couple of games. The Steelers, did we really expect them to torch the Bills' defense? That said, I think this is a shootout. I question who's going to be healthy on both sides of the ball. But right now, I'm actually leaning Chiefs to win this game. I'm not placing a bet now, waiting until later in the week. Dennis, what's your take on what could be the best game of NFL Week 6?
This is purely to enhance my watching experience. I want the over just because I want to see points being scored and be rooting for the points to be scored. So put me down. I'm hoping for something in the 60-plus neighborhood. That would be fantastic to watch.
Final 5 minutes of the show, we move on to Sunday Night Football. The Dallas Cowboys are now 4-1, and they travel to Philadelphia to play the 5-0 Eagles. When it comes to this game right now, I'm seeing spreads at a couple different places, so I'm going to just move on. Dennis, what do you like for the money line play of this game?
I don't know what to do. I just can't help but look at the Cowboys and be skeptical. So I don't know what to make of this. If I had to make a pick, I go fly, Eagles, fly. Give me the Eagles on the money line.
The Eagles are right now -4.5, which just seems very high to me. I'm not crazy about that. I really like Dallas. I would buy the 1.5 and take Dallas to cover that right now. The over/under is set at 42 points. There, I'm even shocking myself. I would take the over on the total points, but when it comes to the -4.5 for Philly, I just think that's too many points right now. I think Dallas is proving their defense is legit. They're finding some balance in their offensive game between Tony Pollard and Zeke splitting touches and finally getting CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup and the receivers involved. So I really like Dallas to cover. Again, buying the 1.5. So Dallas +6, and then I'm going to take the over 42 points. Finally, we'll move to the last game of NFL Week 6. The Denver Broncos. Yes, those Denver Broncos that we're tired of seeing in primetime are once again in primetime. They travel to Los Angeles to play the 3-2 Chargers. The Chargers are 6.5 point favorites. The over-under set at 46.5 points. The Broncos are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games overall. Meanwhile, the Chargers are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games overall. The home team is 5-0 against the spread in the last 5 meetings. I like the Chargers on the money line. That's the obvious play for me. I don't know what I'm touching yet other than that. I'm going to wait to see how the week plays out. But I definitely like the Chargers on the money line. Dennis, what's your take for this last game of NFL Week 6?
I'm praying to the football gods that I don't have to see another primetime game with Russell Wilson for the rest of the season. But I am relieved to see the Chargers. I do have a bunch of their players on my fantasy team, so at least we've got one team to look forward to for their offensive performance. I think it's smart to wait. I'm not sure if the over under is something I want to do, but I want to see where that line moves before I make a decision.
And they don't call it the fastest hour in fantasy football Twitter space and spatial for nothing. That is us going through the entire NFL Week 6 in the last 60 minutes. We are definitely going to be talking about other games, picks, player props, and fantasy plays throughout the week. But that's a preview into NFL Week 6, some of the bets we want to make, some of the early betting lines we want to take advantage of. Please reach out to me on TikTok at Fumble Sports, Instagram at Fumble Sports, or on Twitter at Sports Fumble. Would love to share stories with you, converse about different things going on in the week. We're just about to wrap up the show, Matthew. So sorry, we're not gonna let you get in. We're gonna wrap up this week, but feel free to reach out to me for any advice. Can't wait to talk about the results for everybody coming next Tuesday. But for now, good luck in NFL Week 6, everybody.